And I'm showing about 5 after the start time here. It's 11:34. But I think we can go ahead and get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Pierce. I'm with Data Network Solutions, and we are partnering with Palo Alto to support the Triad ISSA Security Summit again this year. And so we've got a great presentation and lab lined up for you about the Secure Access Services Edge. So I guess maybe a couple of housekeeping things. As I said, I'm muting folks as you come in. Feel free to mute yourself, and please stay unmuted as you're able to, where it makes sense. And if you have any questions or comments or anything, any trouble with anything, feel free to use the questions feature in GoToWebinar or the chat. Either one will be fine. We'll do our best to keep an eye on that. So with that, I believe I will turn it over to Daniel Stevenson, who is one of our sales engineers who supports a variety of our security products, but he is an expert in Palo Alto and will lead you through the presentation and lab. Daniel?
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody for your attendance this soon-to-be afternoon. We're going to dive in and talk a little bit about the Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE, and how Palo Alto Networks, they're offering with Prisma Access, how they offer that to their customers. So this may not be of too much surprise, but today the idea of the traditional data center being the center of our technological universe is over. As we see, 94% of all businesses have started implementing cloud in some capacity, whether that's SaaS-based applications or moving workflows to the cloud. We're seeing a wide adoption rate in the way that businesses are using cloud resources. And by 2023, it's predicted that almost 44% of the workforce globally will be mobile. That'll be interesting to see with this global pandemic and how this all plays out, if that prediction is correct or if that number is actually higher. And then on the WAN side, by 2024, it's predicted that 60% of all enterprises will have implemented SD-WAN. And the reason for that is it reduces complexity for the network. It makes administering and connecting to new connection points easier. It also reduces cost. From a security perspective, trying to build this cloud access on your own can be extremely difficult and complex. One thing that sets that complexity so high is everything is still kind of siloed. If you look in this graph, you can see based on where you are, how you would connect to your different data points. It may follow different paths, whether it's over a VPN link, an MPLS link, traditional internet link. And then to put security on top of that, well, MPLS doesn't even really offer any type of security. It's truly there just for network connectivity. But we've got point products that are out there to try to do things like web proxying or to do cloud access security brokerage. So it becomes difficult to manage. It becomes difficult to troubleshoot. And for our users, it becomes extremely difficult for them to get a uniform experience in an environment such as this. So Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE, is a Gartner term that to tackle these different complexities, it looks to leverage network as a service so that we can do SD-WAN, VPN, all that kind of network connectivity. Put a security overlay on top of that so that we can do deep packet inspection and things like data decryption, sandboxing, and have that in a uniform offering to where now, no matter where my users are, their experience is the same. And for our administrators, the administration path is the same as well. So from Palo Alto Networks, this gives us Prisma Access. Prisma Access is a two-tiered cloud-based offering that gives us a way to connect both our remote branches as well as our remote users into a network service layer that is then overlaid on a security service layer to give us that robust connectivity and security no matter where they need to access their resources, whether that's SaaS, the internet, public cloud, or something on-prem. What makes Prisma Access unique is that it is truly cloud native in that it is globally distributed. So this runs, Palo Alto Networks has built the backbone on the Google public cloud. So it leverages those backbone links that Google has around the world to move packets around. It's truly software based. It's a cloud offering, and it's hardware neutral. Now, of course, through this presentation, you're going to see Palo Alto devices, but really all that you need to connect remote sites together is at that remote site, we need to have the ability to build an IPsec VPN tunnel. Once you have that connectivity in place, we can control everything in the cloud with Prisma Access. It provides the same single pass parallel processing architecture as what we see in the next gen firewall. So when a packet comes through Prisma Access, all of the networking and policy and content inspection is done in parallel with the network processing, so that in a single pass, packets flow and latency is reduced. The scale out and back is needed, and inline encryption decryption that scales. The Prisma Access is built in a way that as resources are needed to do certain tasks, those resources are added to your tenant. And then when demand is lessened, that those resources are contracted. And that's all done automatically by Prisma Access Cloud. There's nothing that the user has to do or the administrator has to do to have that happen. And it is multi-tenant by design, so that resources or happenings from one customer to another does not affect your environment. But at a high level, this is how Prisma Access is utilized. We have the Prisma Access Cloud serves as our hub. Our remote networks connect via IPsec tunnels into the Prisma Access hub, as well as our remote users. And then they have the ability to connect to our service connections in the data center, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud. This gives uniform security no matter where the user is connecting into the environment. So here we can see our branch and mobile users connecting in with a VPN tunnel. They use the same network layer for that connectivity into the Prisma Access Cloud. Again, we have that single processing, and then based off of where the resources they're trying to access, that that traffic gets routed accordingly. So we talked about the single pass processing. Again, this is just to illustrate as a packet comes into Prisma Access, all of the network flow, the user ID lookup, the app ID lookup, the content inspection, and policy evaluation all happens in a single stream. And this again helps to lower latency and heighten efficiency of the system. Again, we touched on the multi-tenancy of Prisma Access. So every customer basically has their own dedicated management and data planes inside of their tenant. This gives the ability for elasticity inside those tenants. So as demand grows, more data plane resources are given to your tenant. Again, it's retracted when it's no longer needed. But if for some reason something was happening inside of one tenant that does not affect tenants or other customers that are part of Prisma Access, you're you're siloed from all other customers. And here's the connectivity options for the Google public cloud and data centers where Prisma Access can connect. So they've got over 100 connections in 76 countries. And it does, again, leverage the Google backbone to move packets from source to destination. The really neat thing about this is, in your instance, if you were global, if you had a remote office in, let's say, Europe, or even a remote traveler, a remote user that goes over to Europe for work, when they connect to Prisma Access, they'll actually connect locally to the nearest data center that's to them, and then it utilizes the data plane or the Google backbone to move around the world. So from a user experience, that connection point will always be one hop away. Now we'll dive into some use cases for Prisma Access. And the first one is mobile users and their connectivity. So with Prisma Access, it is designed for all applications. And basically what you're given is a Palo Alto Networks firewall instance in the cloud. So we have the ability to see and control applications, whether they be in the cloud, on the internet, or in the local data center. Again, we kind of touched on the last slide there, the connectivity always being one hop away. So user experience is good, and the inline security that's always on from a Palo Alto perspective. So whether it's in the Prisma Access cloud or at a remote data center with a Palo Alto Networks firewall, they get the same type of security wherever the user is. So for mobile users, same kind of thing with the auto scaling. So if an event were to happen, like a pandemic, or here the slide says inclement weather, if we see an uptick of users connecting into the Prisma Access cloud, that the cloud will automatically scale Prisma Access, and will harbor that load while it's needed, and then as that event goes away, the resources can be retracted and everything flows back to normal. But this all happens in the cloud automatically. There's nothing the administrator has to do to go in and scale resources when needed. And this kind of just shows a graph over time. Each color on the screen here indicates a different data plane that's spun up. So as we can see here, as the number of users go up, more and more data planes are added to the Prisma Access instance. And then as demand goes down, those data plane instances kind of go away for us there. Before I move on into remote networks, is there any questions so far? All right. So for remote networks, Prisma Access can help lower operational costs in that now your remote sites, they don't need more expensive MPLS circuits to connect back to the data center. They just build an IPsec tunnel to Prisma Access. Once they're there, we can do the same type of user and group based security policy and grant them access to where they need to go. Again, with MPLS, that technology is built purely to move packets and not to secure packets. So with Prisma Access in play, we get the ability to connect our remote sites together, but also have that security overlay on top. So on the remote network side, each connection that you build, you do specify and a lot of bandwidth for. So when you are provisioning a new site, here in the slide, we're using an example of 300 megabits per second. That is automatically provisioned into Prisma Access, so that once that branch connects, they automatically get that 300 megabits of throughput into Prisma Access. And then if we find later that maybe we gave them too much or not enough, the administrator can manipulate what that bandwidth should be for that branch site. So in managing Prisma Access, you have two options. The more preferred option from Palo Alto Networks is using Panorama. So Panorama would become your configuration hub both for Prisma Access as well as any on-prem devices that you had, kind of help stitch together that uniform configuration. For instances where all you need to manage is the Prisma Access, there is a cloud management app by Palo Alto Networks that is available there. Big differentiator is today you can only configure and manage Prisma Access for cloud management. If you wanted to do on-prem devices and SD-WAN and Prisma Access all in one location, that would require Panorama. And speaking of SD-WAN, Prisma Access can serve as your SD-WAN hub. So again, your Panorama would serve as your SD-WAN controller. And then you'd have your different SD-WAN connection points coming into Prisma Access. But with Prisma Access, we can do things like, I think we'll actually see a slide on this, but we can prioritize traffic. We can set parameters based off of latency, jitter, and steer traffic the way we want to within the SD-WAN piece. So from a connectivity standpoint, again, we've got the ability to do IPsec VPN or SSL VPN for our branch and mobile user devices. We can also tie that into SD-WAN. For ISPs, there is a clean pipe option to connect into Google's network. Prisma Access also supports the clientless VPN solution that's available on the firewalls as well. Prisma Access does integrate with your same user ID points as you would use natively on your network, so that you still have the same abilities to do user and group-based policies in Prisma Access. Same full app ID database is available there. Also, when you purchase Prisma Access, it comes with all the threat licensing as well as the Global Protect licensing. So things like wildfire, DNS security, and traditional threat, all of that is bundled in with your package. So you can build and maintain a uniform policy set, again, whether it's on-prem, on your legacy hardware firewalls, or if traffic is going through Prisma Access, giving you the ability to build a true zero trust network from the cloud. We mentioned quality of service. So we do have the ability to prioritize critical applications that were latency sensitive type applications like VoIP. And for more non-critical applications, we can lower the priority for those. And that's done using tags. So based off of the way we tag the traffic and policy, that tag then gets processed through QoS. Palo Alto, I guess it's been in the last year, has released the DNS security license. This is bundled in with Prisma Access. So now we've got the ability to predict what these domain algorithms are generating using machine learning to not only block known bad domains, but also predict what those dynamic domains are going to be in the future and limit connectivity to those, as well as identify traffic that's being tunneled with inside of DNS. So that is a full feature of Prisma Access, just like you'd see on the firewall. Prisma Access can serve as a firewall as a service. So I mentioned earlier, you don't have to have a firewall at each retail location now. You can build an IPsec tunnel up to Prisma Access and then feed that connectivity to the internet directly through Prisma Access. Threat prevention is available in Prisma Access. So what we've done to love with vulnerability, malware, antivirus, command and control, and data filtering, all of those options are available in Prisma Access. Also kind of taken from Prisma SASE, the DLP data patterns have been built into Prisma Access as well. So if we can now block traffic based off of these known data patterns to try to limit data loss. So in the last slide there, I mentioned Prisma SASE. Prisma SASE is a long time. It's kind of been Palo Alto's CASB play in the market. And one thing that I think kind of, in my opinion, took it away from being a CASB play is that it doesn't necessarily control who has access to what applications you have. Prisma SASE gives you visibility into user permissions. It has tie-ins to Wildfire so that if somebody puts a piece of malware in an email or on a box drive, Prisma SASE has the ability to flag that and remediate that, as well as give you visibility into permissions. So if somebody put sensitive data in a share and shared it publicly, you get alerted to that and you could fix that quickly. With Prisma Access, we now have true CASB control in that we can, if we feed all of our information through Prisma Access, we can now allow access to our sanctioned and tolerated SaaS applications. But for any unsanctioned SaaS applications we don't want users to use, we can block those. So it moves that administrative from being hardware firewall to hardware firewall and feeds that directly into Prisma Access. All right, so from a presentation standpoint, that's all I had. Does anybody have any questions? If you see me looking weird off to the side, I'm just looking to see if anybody put anything in chat.
Yeah, I don't see anything in questions or in chat, Daniel. So feel free to unmute yourself and speak up if you like, but I don't see anything in the other windows there.
Okay, so here is our network topology that we're going to be working with in the lab. We're basically going to have one VM series firewall, and we're going to create 2 LAN segments and 2 WAN segments, and then kind of feed that through Prisma Access to get from one to the other. We'll also have a mobile device that we will use to connect in to simulate a remote user, and then we'll manage both Prisma Access and the VM series firewall here with Panorama. And holistically, what we're going to build in the lab is a remote branch architecture. So there'll be a simulated headquarters building, and each participant in the lab will basically simulate a branch with, again, 2 LAN segments and 2 WAN segments. So I'll make sure we throw this information up into chat as well, so you guys can copy and paste it. Here's the student link and the passphrase we'll use to log into the lab environment. And once you're registered and into the lab, you'll see a bunch of tabs at the top, but one of those tabs will be the workshop guide. And that's what we'll use to step through the lab. Let me.
So Daniel, while you're working on putting that in the chat window, I think that's the easiest way for everybody to access that URL. I'll just note that it's about noon right now, and it's lunchtime for a lot of folks. So if once we kind of get into the lab session, there tends to be a lot of kind of working on your own and silence and that kind of thing. So if you want to step away and grab a bite, that's not going to bother us a bit. If you want to let us know when you're leaving and when you're back, that kind of thing, that might help in the chat, just so we don't try to engage with you while you're gone. And there's not a strict schedule that we're on as far as starting right away or starting in a little bit here, but the lab's going to be available for a few hours, so you'll have some flexibility there. And one thing we thought we would do, just to try to kind of stay engaged with everyone as we go through, is maybe in about 30 minutes we might touch base and see where everybody is in terms of the different sections of the lab, so we can count on that. We'll plan to open back up the audio and chat then, and if we could all kind of come together and just check in, I think that would be good. But of course, in the meantime, feel free to use the questions or chat windows as you if you have any questions or if you run any challenges.
When you go to log into the lab, it'll ask for your email address as well as the class passphrase. That's that DNS SASE UTD. Once you log in there, it will ask you to register. So it will ask for some information. Once you get done registering, then that will open up the lab for you. Right, and as Brian said, it's 12 o'clock now, 12:01, so we'll check in about 30 minutes.
Did someone have a question there? I heard someone say something.
All right, everybody. Kind of at that 12:30 mark. Anybody, if y'all wouldn't mind, if you just put in chat where you guys are in the lab, I would appreciate it. Also, if anybody has any questions, you just let us know.
Thanks, Lacey. So I see your note about your status. And I know Nate had stepped out. I'm not sure if he's back yet. Thanks, Jonathan. I see yours as well. All right, everybody, we're coming up on about 1 hour of lab time. So I just wanted to check in and see how everybody's doing. Nate, I saw that you're back and working through things. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe just take a quick second and update either with a question or a chat to us and let us know kind of where you are in the lab, which section you're on. That'd be helpful. And certainly if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thanks, Lacey. Guys, as you're finishing up the lab, if you could for us, take the survey at the end. It just helps us out, as well as Palo Alto Networks, to see if they need to change or fix or keep doing something in the lab. So if you could take a moment and fill out that survey, we'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate. I see your update here. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to check in. We've spent another 30 minutes and just kind of wanted to see where everybody stands. I'm thinking that the majority of you probably finished or are near finishing up the steps, the sections in the lab guide there. So if you would, maybe this time, if you could let us know if you're still working on anything or if you have any questions in the question or chat windows, and depending on where we stand, we may go ahead and wrap things up early, but if folks need more time, by all means, take all the time you want. We've got plenty of time this afternoon to spend here. So if you don't mind, please update those, I guess, your current status in the questions or chat area, and we'll make a decision from there. Nate, I see your response. It looks like that's the only one we received. I know Lacey had said she had completed things, so I assume some folks may have stepped away to grab a bite, that kind of thing. So I think we are good. Nate, if you're good with it, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. I would ask that you complete the survey that's available as part of the curriculum. There's a link to that on the CloudShare site. Let us know if you have any trouble finding that, and we really appreciate you participating today. I hope you found the ultimate test drive to be worthwhile, and look forward to speaking with you all soon. Daniel, any closing thoughts from you?
Well, I just wanted to say thanks again, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. You know, if we have any questions arise or whatnot, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to tie up any loose ends we can for you.
All right, good deal. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you.
Absolutely. All right, well, with that, we'll end the session, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and take care.
Thanks, everybody.